Everyone, the story I'm about to tell you today is a true story about the shocking truth behind the most mysterious disappearance in the history of American tourism. In June 1996, the Stanton family of four from Chicago vanished completely after taking a final photo on the beautiful shores of a Missouri lake. For 2 years, despite a nationwide search, there were no clues. However, human remains discovered deep in the Ozark National Forest in 1998 changed everything. But as the identity of those remains was revealed, a greater shock awaited. If you stay until the end, you will witness with tears how a desperate situation turned it into a miraculous reunion. On June 15th, 1996, the Stanton family from Chicago, Illinois, arrived at Kansas City International Airport. There was the father, Robert Stanton, 45, his wife, Susan Stanton, 42, and their two daughters, Jessica, 16, and Megan, 12. They had planned a 2-week vacation to experience America's beautiful heartland and nature. They were especially eager to see the expansive Lake of the Ozarks and the rolling hills of the Ozark Mountains. On June 18th, the family arrived in Springfield, Missouri, and checked into a lakeside lodge. Guided by a local expert, they spent a happy time watching the sunrise over the Lake of the Ozarks. They were last seen at 6 p.m. on June 19th at a historic farmers market in downtown Springfield. They were captured on a security camera buying local crafts. After that, all trace of them completely vanished. They never returned to their lodge, nor did they make their scheduled drive back to Kansas City. In September 1998, skeletal remains were discovered deep in the Ozark National Forest in Arkansas. Law enforcement agencies announced a high probability that these were the remains of the Stanton family. However, the truth was hiding in a completely different place. Before we continue with the truth of this shocking international disappearance, if you enjoy real-life mystery stories with incredible twists, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. I want to continue bringing you true stories with unexpected endings. And please let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I want to share these amazing stories with people from all over the world. On June 15th, 1996, a special family appeared in the arrivals terminal of Kansas City International Airport. It was Robert Stanton and his family. Robert was a middle school history teacher in Chicago. His wife Susan was a nurse. Their elder daughter Jessica was a high school sophomore, and the youngest, Megan, was in the 7th grade. "Wow, we're really in the heartland," Megan exclaimed excitedly at the airport. The family's trip to the Ozarks began with Jessica's dream. She had become fascinated with American folk culture while studying it in her history class. "Dad, they say the Ozarks are a truly beautiful part of the country. The mountains are gorgeous, the lakes are so clean, and the people are supposed to be incredibly kind." Seeing his daughter's passion, Robert decided on a family trip. It was a special vacation they had prepared for by saving money for a year. On their first day, the family toured Kansas City, the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, the Country Club Plaza, the city market. Everything was fascinating. "This barbecue is amazing," Susan exclaimed while eating at a famous local joint. Jessica had learned a few local phrases and could say howdy and y'all, and the local people responded to her with even greater kindness. On June 18th, the family drove their rental van to Springfield. This landscape is so green, Megan said, delighted looking out the window. At their hotel, a local guide named David Miller was waiting for them. Welcome. I'll show you the beautiful Ozark Mountains and lakes. David had a friendly, down to earth demeanor and a deep knowledge of the area. He quickly bonded with the Stanton family. Tomorrow we'll go to a scenic overlook at the lake. It has a very beautiful sunrise, David said. Oh, really? We're so excited, Robert replied. That first evening, the family stayed at a lodge on the shore of the Lake of the Ozarks. The couple who owned the lodge were also very kind. You're from Chicago, wow. That's a long drive. Rest well. Thank you, ma'am, Jessica replied politely. That night, the family fell into a happy sleep, listening to the gentle lapping of the lake water. At 5 a.m. on June 19th, the Stanton family went to a scenic overlook to see the sunrise. Wow, so beautiful, Susan gasped as she watched the sun ascend. David took a family photo for them. No one knew that it would be their last. In the photo, the Stanton family was all smiles. Robert stood with his two daughters on either side, and Susan was smiling happily next to her husband. This picture is so lovely. I'm going to show it to all my friends back home, Jessica said. In the morning, they explored fantastic caverns and a local heritage museum. They were deeply impressed by the region's unique history. This area has such a rich history, Robert remarked. As a history teacher, he asked many questions. For lunch, they ate at a famous local diner known for its catfish. This is so crispy and delicious, Megan said, enjoying her meal. In the afternoon, they spent time at a public beach on the lake. The children built sand castles, and their parents took pictures of them. This is truly a perfect day, Susan said to her husband. It is. Seeing the kids this happy makes it all worth it. Around 5 p.m., David made a suggestion. How about we go to the historic market in downtown Springfield and pick up some local snacks and crafts before you head back tomorrow? Good idea. Let's go, Robert answered. Arriving at the market, the family saw many interesting things. Funnel cakes, local honey, and handmade quilts, everything was new to them. At 6 p.m., they were captured for the last time on a security camera. The footage showed them laughing while eating funnel cake. David said, I'll be right back, just need to use the restroom, and left for a moment. When he returned 10 minutes later, the Stanton family was gone. Huh, where'd they go? David looked around the bustling market, but they were nowhere to be found. As you're listening to this, what are your thoughts? Is it possible for a family of 4 tourists to vanish in an instant in Springfield, Missouri in 1996? What could have happened in the brief moment the guide stepped away? Please share your theories in the comments. What in the world happened to the Stanton family? At 7 p.m., David Miller reported them missing to the police. A family of 4 tourists from Chicago has disappeared, and the police immediately began a search. Although 1996 was a time of relative calm, the disappearance of tourists was a matter of national concern. Check all the security footage, the Springfield police chief ordered. The investigation showed the family was active in the market until 6:10 p.m., but after that, they did not appear on any other cameras. The FBI was notified. Please make the investigation of the Stanton family's disappearance a top priority. The next day, a large scale search began. Police firefighters, park rangers, and civilian volunteers were all mobilized. We will search the entire Springfield area, the search commander announced at a briefing. They searched the lake, the forests, and the city. They even used a helicopter to search from the sky. But after a week, there were still no clues. Relatives of the Stanton family flew in from Chicago. Please find our family, Robert's brother Thomas said, his voice choked with tears. Media interest was intense. The story of the missing American family was on the news every night. Concerns were raised about the safety of tourists. The federal government formed a special task force. We must find the Stanton family no matter what. A month passed. The search area was expanded nationwide, considering the possibility they might have traveled to another region. Alerts were sent to police departments in St. Louis, Memphis, and Dallas. 3 months passed, still no clues. Could they have been abducted by a cult? Some speculated, but the possibility was considered low, as there was no evidence of such groups operating in the area. 6 months, then a year passed. Media attention began to wane. The U.S. government continued to press for answers, but there was no progress. The Stanton family's relatives visited Missouri every year to search for themselves. We can't give up. Our family is out there somewhere. By 1998, thousands of people had officially participated in the search over 2 years, but the Stanton family had vanished as if into thin air. On September 15, 1998, a startling discovery was made deep in the Ozark National Forest of Arkansas. A hiker named Ben Carter, who was foraging for wild mushrooms, found human bones. "Hey, there are bones over here," Carter reported. Police and forensic anthropologists rushed to the scene. What they found were the skeletal remains of 4 individuals. The age and gender are consistent with the Stanton family, a forensic anthropologist announced in a preliminary finding. The news immediately reported the story. Remains presumed to be of the American family missing for 2 years have been found. The FBI sent experts to confirm. However, it would take time for the detailed forensic analysis to be completed. As the analysis progressed, strange things were discovered. "There's something odd about the dental records," a forensic odontologist said. "What's odd about them? The dental work is inconsistent with what we'd expect. The fillings and crowns are of a type not commonly used in the last few decades." More detailed DNA testing was conducted. The result was shocking. These remains are not the Stanton family. So whose remains were they? Further investigation revealed an astonishing fact. The remains belonged to a family that had gone missing in the area during a flood in the 1970s. They had been buried in the wilderness for over 20 years. So the Stantons are still missing. The investigators were back at square one, but this discovery provided a new lead. They began to reinvestigate the remote region of the Ozark National Forest where the remains were found. Could the Stanton family be somewhere around here too? Just then, a resident of a small, isolated community in the forest provided crucial testimony. "I saw some white folks, about 2 summers ago. Really, where? In an old cabin deep in the woods. There were 4 of them, a man, a woman, and 2 young girls. The investigators' hearts began to pound. A new lead after 2 years. Could the Stanton family really be alive? If this suspenseful moment touches your heart, please support us with a like. Can they be found? I want to continue sharing these true stories with amazing twists. Hearing the locals' testimony, the investigative team immediately headed to the area. Can you tell us exactly where you saw them? It's an old cabin over yonder past that ridge. It was about 2 years back in the summer. It took the team a full day to find the cabin. It was in a truly remote part of the forest. And then finally, the miracle they were searching for happened. They saw the figure of Susan Stanton hanging laundry in front of the cabin. Susan, Susan Stanton, an agent shouted. Susan was startled by the sudden appearance of strangers, but her expression soon turned to one of relief. Oh my God, you finally found us. From inside the cabin, Robert and the 2 girls emerged. They were all alive. Is it really you, the Stanton family? An agent asked, his face a mask of disbelief. Yes, it is. I'm Robert Stanton. It was a miraculous reunion after 2 years. But why were they here in this deep wilderness? Robert began to explain. On that day, June 19th, 1996, I suddenly felt dizzy at the market in Springfield. Dizzy. Yes, and then I blacked out. When I came to, we were already here in the mountains. An investigation into what happened revealed a shocking fact. There had been a problem with the food the Stanton family ate at the market. They had suffered acute poisoning from a batch of improperly canned preserves sold by an unlicensed vendor. Someone brought us here after we collapsed, Susan said. That someone was a 70-year-old man named Jedediah who lived alone in the woods. This man saved us, Jessica said. Jedediah was a Vietnam veteran who had lost his family in a car accident and had lived as a recluse in the mountains for nearly 30 years. That day, returning from a rare trip to town, he had found the Stanton family collapsed. They were just lying there sick, so I brought him here, the old man explained simply. But there was a problem. Jedediah lived completely cut off from the world. No phone, no radio, no newspaper, and the Stanton family had suffered temporary amnesia due to the poisoning. For the first few months, we couldn't even remember who we were, Megan said. The old man cared for them like his own family. He treated them with herbal remedies from the forest and cooked for them with vegetables from his own garden. He was like a real grandfather to us, Robert said, tears welling in his eyes. As time passed, their memories returned, but something strange happened. They realized that life with Jedediah was incredibly peaceful. It was completely different from our busy lives in Chicago, Susan said. There was no stress, and a life lived with nature was truly beautiful. The Stanton family lived with the old man in the woods for 2 years. Why didn't you try to make contact? The whole world was looking for you, an agent asked. Robert replied with a complicated expression. At first, we couldn't because of the memory loss, and later, we couldn't bring ourselves to leave the old man all alone. Jedediah, having lived alone for 30 years, had been incredibly lonely. He said he felt happiness for the first time since his own family died after the Stantons arrived. "These people are my family now," he said. The Stantons felt the same way. They were moved by the old man's pure and warm heart. "We realized that money houses cars. None of that really matters," Robert said. Jessica and Megan had also completely adapted to life in the forest. "We learned the true meaning of family here," Jessica said. "Jedediah taught us about the forest, and we taught him things about the world he'd forgotten," Megan added with a smile. The investigative team was moved, but there was a practical problem. "But think of how worried your family in Chicago must be." Only then did the Stanton family realize how much suffering they had caused. "We're so sorry. We were so selfish," Susan said, crying. The FBI was contacted, and Thomas and other family members rushed to Missouri. "Robert, you're really alive." The reunion of the brothers was incredibly emotional, but a difficult choice awaited the Stanton family. Would they return to their life in Chicago, or would they stay in the Ozarks with the old man? "We can't abandon Jedediah," Robert said firmly. It was then that an incredible offer was made. "Why don't you come with us to Chicago, Jedediah?" Thomas suggested, but the old man said he could never leave the mountains. "My roots are here. I'll die here." In the end, the Stanton family made an astonishing decision. "We'll settle here in Missouri." In October 1998, the Stanton family officially began the process of relocating. They moved from the deep woods to the city of Springfield. Jedediah came with them. Robert began teaching English at Drury University. Susan found a job as a nurse at Cox Health. Jessica enrolled in a local high school, and Megan started at a middle school. "I want to learn everything about this place and truly become a part of this community," Megan said. The most amazing transformation happened to Jedediah. The man who had lived alone for 30 years suddenly had a family of 6, the 4 Stantons plus Robert's brother Thomas and his wife, who decided to move to Springfield as well. "I never knew I could be this happy," the old man said, tears streaming down his face. The Stanton family treated him like their own grandfather, embracing the local traditions of community and care. In 1999, the Stanton family's story was published in a book titled Finding Our Family in the Forest. The book became a bestseller and was even made into a television movie. "We're glad our story can give hope to so many people," Robert said. In 2003, Jedediah passed away peacefully at the age of 77. The Stanton family was by his side until the very end. "You'll always be our family, Jedediah, even in heaven," Jessica said, holding his hand. Today, the Stanton family still lives in Springfield. Robert and Susan are now official Missourians. Jessica graduated from Drury University and now works for a local environmental nonprofit. Megan went on to medical school at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. "This is our real home," Megan says. Every year on June 19th, the family visits the Lake of the Ozarks to celebrate their 2nd birthday, because that's the day we started our new life. It was a miraculous story born from a 2-year disappearance. This story is based on a true event that took place from 1996 to 1998. It was a fateful encounter created by an unforeseen accident and a moving conclusion brought about by true family love. Today, the Stanton family continues to live happily in Springfield. Robert, now 74, still tutors history, and Jessica and Megan are married with children of their own. Jedediah's grave is in a Springfield cemetery, and the family visits it regularly. How did this story make you feel? Did you feel that sometimes unexpected events can bring us greater happiness? Please share your thoughts in the comments. It's a story that teaches us that true family is bound not by blood, but by love, and that peace of mind is more precious than material wealth. I want to continue bringing you these moving and surprising true stories. Please support me with a subscription, a like, and by turning on notifications. And please share this beautiful story so that it can bring hope and inspiration to more people. I will be back next week with another amazing true story that will warm your heart. Please remember that the love of a family knows no borders. Thank you.